Ladies and gentlemen, I am not your regular host, but I would like to welcome you to the next episode of the Unfinished Lifestyle Podcast. I think this is episode 5.
I believe so.
And the reason that I am in the director's chair today is because Yo, my amazing co-host and guest today, is normally the one that's interviewing people. But today we kind of thought that we would do something a little different and interview him, mostly because you just finished coming off of 2 shows back-to-back, continuous prep for how many weeks?
27.
27, so that's from start all the way to the most recent show.
Yeah.
Okay.
So January 1st is when I prepped.
January 1st. And then your first show was when? When and where?
This year?
Yeah.
Was the Salt Lake City Championship, June 8th, I think, if I remember correctly, or June 10th.
It was that weekend, yeah. It was,
yeah. And then my second show was this past weekend, was July 8th.
In Las Vegas.
Because
the other one was here in Salt Lake. The other one's in Las Vegas. Right?
So I won the one in Salt Lake. So I took first my division. And then I went down to Vegas, and that was a very, very tough show. And I took third. And by far, I've done 9 shows. That is probably, and I keep saying probably, and I know that is one of the best shows, the best one I've ever done.
In terms of physique?
Physique, mentally, we did everything that we possibly could, down to sodium count, glucose level, all of it. I mean, we peaked it perfectly.
Yeah, I saw you checking your glucose. And so that was a first time for you as well, right? First time?
First time. Yeah.
So when you check your glucose, essentially what you're looking for is how intense and how long your carbs can hit you for.
Right.
Is that right? Okay. And
so I checked it, like, basically, so I eat, whatever carbs that I'm eating. Right. And by the way, I'm testing it because just to kind of see where I'm at 2 hours post meal. And I keep dipping. And when I dip, it's usually simple carbs. So like rice, cream of rice, and it dipped so fast. And it's funny because it was dipping below 40, 45. It just
doesn't hold.
It didn't hold. So and I had to utilize cream of rice again the day before and the day of the show, but I had to use some fats to slow down the digestive. So I had to put a tablespoon or 2 tablespoons of peanut butter with my cream of rice, so it slows down the digest. That worked. But I haven't touched rice for like 2 months.
Just regular rice.
No white rice. Like I've been carving up with just bread, plain bagel, Graham Sycamore bread, Dave's Killer bread. I mean, you name it. Even tortillas sometimes too. So that works out, but not rice, man. Like that was the one thing that I did not do, and it worked out just fine.
So you would probably say that the prep for your very first show back in 2018 is dramatically different than this. And obviously, a lot of bodybuilders going into shows will be on PEDs and things like that. But you had mentioned that at your first show that you were even taking water pills to pull water. And on these new shows, the latest shows that you've done, it's a little bit more, I don't want to use this word, but a little more like on the natural side. Like you're using food to help dry you out and water to help dry you out. And you're doing things on a time limit. So you're not relying on the water pill
external
so much. Or out. Yeah.
But on this last show, we did use what we call a diazide. So that's a very, very, very strong form of diuretics. It's pharmaceutical. So that's something that we've never done with Brandon before. And we use a quarter of a diazide at 5 p.m. Friday. And then we use another.
Show is Saturday morning.
Yeah. And then we use another quarter. Like literally such a small pill, another quarter like at 10 p.m. So that's the first time we've ever done it. And I didn't think that it was going to look as good, but man, it dried me out so well. And then we kept it carbs full. My glycogen level is fuller going into this next one. Going into it and not dipping. Yeah, because we had to use diuretics. So I remember Friday night I checked in. And I was done eating for the day. And then I checked in again, like 10:30, 11 o'clock. And Brandon was like, dude, you got to eat. You need another meal.
Yeah, really?
We're like, whoa. Yeah, because I was dropping weight, like water weight. And so he gave me another 50 grams of carbs that night. And it was not planned. So I had more than 6 meals Friday.
Wow.
I had 7.
Which obviously is completely unheard of, too.
Oh, dude.
A lot of people go into shows on nothing, on literally nothing to be as dry and lean as possible. But then the problem with that too is if your glucose is low because you're not eating the right foods, you're flat.
I'm flat.
You're flat.
Yeah.
Not just you, but
and
everybody.
I know. And in fact, Saturday morning, I checked my glucose first thing in the morning, literally. So I just had cream of rice at 10 o'clock. I woke up at 5 a.m.
So 10 p.m. and then 5 a.m.
10 p.m. and then 5 a.m. I checked my glucose level. It was so low. It just says low. It didn't even give me a number. I was like, oh shit, I gotta eat. Dude, and Brandon's like, bro, you gotta eat. So he gave me a little bit more carbs that day as well. So that was pretty interesting to see. Even with the cream rice I had, but then again, I've been fasted for what, 8 hours at this point. So my last meal was 10 o'clock
sleeping,
p.m. And then I woke up at 5, so about 7 hours. So I mean, it tanked at that point, and I lost even more weight the next day.
Yeah. Plus, not having any food, because normally 8 hours fasting is fine, because most normal people have a large meal, tons of carbs, so while you're sleeping your body can utilize that. Yours, when you're sleeping, your body's going through all the repair processes. There isn't much to pull from. It's
dude,
on low
I dropped weight, and if you guys must know, my morning weight, and this is not a true weight because we had to use Diazide. So my typical stage weight when I wake up in the morning is 160s, right? But when we use the Diazide, I dropped to 155 that morning. 155 pounds.
I've never heard of you being that low.
Yeah. So that's pretty low.
Yeah.
And that's before any meal. I had gone to the bathroom, and then Brandon was like, "Bro, you need to eat like now." So he gave me more meals, more food, first thing in the morning.
It's about, you said 8 a.m. or so, right?
No,
or you said 5.
5:30 was my first meal, and then my second meal was 7:30. That morning, I was running a little bit behind because the tan took forever, and Vegas was hot, bro. It was.
So the other thing too that you will also benefit from, if this is a benefit from my understanding, I don't know, but Las Vegas is at sea level. We're elevated. We're up here, so the air is a lot thicker, which means your blood is thicker, which means being hydrated and dehydrated is quite different here than it is there. Did you notice anything with water consumption or water loss?
I never had
the elevation.
Yeah, I never had any issues with that. I actually did when I won my show 2 years ago in Vegas. I actually flew in Friday morning. And that show I won, and I didn't even use any water pills at all or any Diazide. This time we flew in Thursday evening, and we didn't get until midnight. And so I thought for sure waking up Friday morning I wasn't going to be as dry. I was going to hold some water.
Right. From because staying up late, stress flying.
Yeah, stress of flying. I didn't sleep very well, and but I ended up staying in bed until 9 o'clock Friday morning, so it helped out. So I had about more than 12 hours of a fasted at that point. Yeah. So my body digested very well. And then when I wake up Friday morning, and then I went for that walk. So I ate my first meal and I went for a walk, for a 45-minute walk outside. Yeah. I mean, I was back on point. It was never, water retention never really affected me. In fact, also we dropped my sodium level.
Which is huge for water retention.
Yeah. And I didn't know. And so he had me track my sodium level on Wednesday, I think. And I was eating... Gosh, I was eating somewhere between 4,000 to 5,000 milligrams a day on sodium.
Sodium?
Yeah. Because Brandon was like, okay, don't change anything. Just do everything the same, but I want you to track it. I'm like, okay. So I tracked it, and then the end of the day, I'm like, holy shit, I'm 4,200. And then I think I was being conservative because before I was drenching my food with soy sauce. Oh my gosh, it was crazy. So
that has lots of sodium.
Yeah. So because I actually measured it, and even then, I still hit 4,100 milligrams.
So imagine if you weren't measuring, you're quite a bit higher.
Right.
Yeah.
So then we changed it Thursday, and then Thursday we decided, Brandon was like, okay, let's go 3,000 milligrams or less. Okay, cool. I hit 31.
Yeah.
And Friday came around. I mean, it was on point. So we kept my sodium level at 3,000 Friday, 3,000 Saturday. So it was perfect. We did everything. That was the best show I've ever done. Even though I took third, I felt more accomplished
than taking maybe first.
Times. 4 weeks ago I took first.
Yeah.
And I knew, and I'm not knocking, Utah competitors. I'm not saying they're not good enough, but the lineup that I had for my class, it wasn't. Yeah, because I remember I was lining up for the show and backstage, and I'm looking at the guys. I'm like, okay, there's only 4 of us.
Right.
And so and instantly,
in your division?
Yeah, in my division, instantly I knew, and then 2 of them were novice, and one of them, funny story, the guy that beat me 2 years ago at October show, he took first, and I actually took third.
I remember that.
And
show.
I remember sitting backstage with Nick. This is my first show this year in June. I'm stretching, and I look up, and I'm like, wait a minute. I think that's the guy that beat. Yeah. I was telling Nick, and I was texting Brad. I'm like, dude, the guy that beat me 2 years ago
is here in my division. Yeah.
And here in my division doing my show. And I looked at Nick, and Nick looked at me, and I looked at him, and I said, it's game fucking over. It was game over, bro. That was a sweet revenge for me because he beat me 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And I came in on point that morning, obviously.
And it's all good competition too.
No, it was great. Yeah.
It's just business.
Yeah, and I think he's older. I think he was doing masters as well.
Oh, okay,
he doesn't look old. I mean, he looked great. I think he looked amazing. But I remember and then at night I won.
Yep.
And then I remember he got his second and I took first, and he looked at me. He was like, "Good job, bro." I'm like,
"Yeah, man."
And in my mind, I'm thinking, "Fuck yeah, motherfucker." I'm like,
it's obviously like it's all good, and it's like it's all like humble, and that's just the same thing too. That's like you see fighters do that all the time, like Conor McGregor and all these people. They talk massive amounts of like just all sorts of shit behind each other's back, and then as soon as it's over, nothing but love and respect. Like that's just the game.
It's just the game, man. It was a game, and so he respected that. I respected him for saying congratulations to me, and that was cool because I did not say anything to him when I lost 2 years ago. That was probably the worst shows I've ever done when I lost.
I remember you were very upset.
I was very upset.
And that one wasn't necessarily like you were a sore loser. There was a few things that a lot of people were like, wait a minute. Like,
out of all of my 9 shows.
Yeah.
And when I placed second, third, fourth, fifth, or whatever, I agree.
Yeah.
Except for that one show.
That one was the most controversial, I think, at least within our little circle, and not just because you're our friend. That's like the hard thing to explain too. It's like, well, of course you think you should have won. He's your friend, but like, no, there were a lot of us that were like, what? Like, maybe not first, but I remember the person that took first. It was real close. He looked really good, but the person that took second, I remember I was like, there's no way, at least second. So to get third, there was a lot of stuff going on.
It was anonymous too. Like the main judge could have put me at second, right? But if all the other judges place me below, and
you'll average like average,
so it's an average score so it's an unanimous, right? So we don't know who
specifically said what or whatever.
Yeah. So I when I won this past June, he goes, "Congrats, man!" And I knuckled him on stage. And in my head, I'm like, fucking right.
Dude.
But I mean,
that's right. Get off my stage, bro.
Get out of here. No, that was cool. But yeah, Vegas was fun. And originally we were supposed to do Vegas and then do another show like 3 weeks later, 3 weeks from now. So I want to talk about that real quick. One of the reasons why I did this last show was because...
Quick question for you. So in Salt Lake, when you competed and you took first and then you traveled to Vegas, is this a similar division show, or is this something that's a little bit tougher competition than maybe something here in Salt Lake? Does that make sense? Like, is it a little different, or is it a different
It was
class,
different. It was a lot different because it was a pro and an amateur show. So it's kind of like the Wasatch show.
Mixture.
Yeah. So they had a pro division there. It was a bikini pro division. There's no guys there. But because of that, the show had a lot of attention. And Sandy is one of the biggest judges in IFBB Pro. And when I did that show, and I'm thinking, okay, we're gonna do the show, stand in front of the same judge, get her feedback.
Pros,
get her feedback, and then tell her I'm gonna do the next 3 weeks. I'm gonna do the show in the next, because she's gonna judge the same show. And apparently everyone else had the same idea. And so with the competitor that was there, I mean, 9 times out of 10, 90% of them, male and female, they were most likely all nationally qualified people already.
Oh, gotcha.
They're all doing the same thing that I'm doing.
Right.
Yeah.
And you haven't nationally qualified yet.
Well, I did because I won Salt Lake. So I'm already national qualified, but I won it. Yeah. But I ended up taking third. And I remember right after the show, I went back and then I saw Sandy. Her name is Sandy, backstage. And by the way, she's probably the best judges I've ever worked with. I mean, she was very detailed on my physique, on my feedback. I mean, it was amazing. So I remember I came back that night after the bikini, and she had a whole line of people. I'm like, all right, I'm just going to wait. So I waited, and finally it's my turn. And I had a 10-minute conversation with her. And I said, okay, my name is so-and-so. I took third in my division. She goes, oh, I remember you.
Yeah.
And which is good. And then she said, I love your look. I love your front. You were conditioned. I love your shape. Your chest and shoulder were very proportioned.
Yeah.
Your back shot was very proportioned, but you need more depth. more muscle maturity. I just need that depth.
And I know exactly what you're talking about too. Like in your back and your chest and stuff. It's just
the 3D.
Yep.
I just need to be 3D. Yeah. And so when I look back at my pictures, comes back to
size.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I just need more size. That's what she literally said. So without
it's like shape, condition,
everything else,
everything going into the show. It's like, this is perfect. A little more weight, a little more size.
Yeah, and I think these guys that beat me first and second, I'm pretty sure they're on stage between 165, 175.
You're at 150.
Yeah, well,
something.
I mean, after carbs and stuff, I think I'm pretty sure I'm at 158, between 158 and 160.
But even like 5 pounds makes a massive difference. Like 5 pounds, that's a big deal.
So. Yeah, and then she said depth. I'm like, perfect. Thank you so much for being honest. And I have another question. She goes, what's up? And I said, well, I was originally planning on doing USA, which is a national level show.
Right.
In order for you to do that, you got to qualify at amateur, which I did. And then I said, so am I going to waste my time and money to do this show?
In 3 weeks.
In 3 weeks. And she said, you want me to be honest? I'm going to tell you. I'm like, okay. She goes, honestly, you have the shape and you have the look. You just need more depth. If you really want to see what the back of USA National last year looks like, go to the NPC online, pull that up, and see what their backs look like. And I'm not even gonna look. Like, I already know. I'm like, all right, I know.
So she very knowledgeably was like, I'm gonna leave it up to you. This is something to compare, and if you feel like you're up for this challenge, go ahead.
Yep.
But so that's a really great way to do it too. It's like, it's up to you.
And then she said, well, have you done nationals before? I'm like, yes. I'm like, okay, if you haven't done nationals, I think you should do it, get an experience, recalibrate, and go from there. But if you've done it, which I did 2 years ago,
right.
Honestly, I would push your national till next year, which is junior.
Next year, same time.
Yeah, junior national either in June or do another USA next year in July. Mm. But I had some conflict of scheduling around end of May, June, that's not going to allow me to. I'm going to Malaysia next year.
Yeah, that's right.
There's no way. Right? Yeah. There's no way I'm going to stay on prep on point. I couldn't if I try. Right. And so
especially to compete at a national level.
Yeah. So then Brandon. So right after I had that conversation, I thank her. I'm like, thank you so much for giving that feedback. I went back out, I saw Brandon, and then we went into our hotel room and we chat for like an hour about what we wanted to do, what we wanted to decide, honestly. And we're like, okay, let's do this. Instead of finding a show later the next year, which you still can do a national show next year, end of next year, let's push it to the end. And that gives you a little bit more time to grow. So at least 2 bulking cycles. So now until December or January, and then January until June or July. Because if I want to do a show in November or December, my prep starts June 1st, basically.
Yeah.
Or when I get back from Malaysia, right? So that's when my prep really starts. So really, in bodybuilding world, we don't have a lot of time. It's just we look in terms of weeks.
Right. It's like the show may be a year and some change away, but 20-something weeks, which is months, of that is cutting. So you have a limited amount of time to build size.
Exactly. So, and then we thought of an idea that, okay, why don't we pick a weight? We want to be 190 to 200 before we start prep. Because I usually lose about 20, 25 pounds of weight before we get on stage. And we agreed to it.
That's all sorts of stuff. That's fat, water, some muscle.
So, So I want to at least gain 5 to 8 pounds solid, because I can do 5, but pushing 10, it's hard on especially male, even with or without gear. I mean, it's
putting on muscles hard, especially like the way you're built, things like that.
Yeah. So that's what we decided, and now I'm not doing any more shows for the rest of the year. I think I'm slowly increasing calories right now, and I'm not lifting this week.
Yeah,
I haven't lifted since last Thursday. It's weird because after all the shows that I've done, I'm back in the gym Monday. But for some reason this time I felt different, because I think I've seen my potential, and I know I'm going to go ham on Sunday, and I know that I'm already in that next level mentally. And so I decided to take this whole week off, give my body a break, let it rest.
Could use it because it's been so low on everything.
Dude, for 27 weeks straight, I mean, I was grinding. So I'm taking this whole week off, and the reason why I decided to do Sunday is because that gives me a little bit more time to spend time with the family, catching up on my work. Dude, I've been so productive this week. It's not even funny. It's crazy productive, which is awesome. And tomorrow I'm taking that time off. It's hard because I'm coaching client in the gym, and it's hard for me not to lift because it's there. But for some reason, it was easy for me. It was easy not to push. It was easy not to lift. My body's loving it. I don't feel sore. Like I'm relaxed. Like I don't feel tense in my back like I always do.
I always get it like in my neck.
Dude, it's horrible.
No matter what I lift too. Yeah. Like it's always like kind of in my neck.
Yeah, and then it's always like tense all the time. And now I'm so relaxed. It's weird.
I always feel like tight and like kind of like boxy, you know?
And so going into this off season, and Brandon and I had a conversation, and he said to me, yo, I think you fully understand your potential now. I think you see it now. Because of that conversation that I had with Sandy, and that brought me to the next level. I'm like, okay, because she believed in me,
right?
And I'm not saying Brandon does that, or you, or Jess, or you know, my close friends and circles, but that solidified it for me. And I'm like, okay, I do have a chance to really make it as a pro, to really, because everybody kept talking about my shape, my symmetry. I just need more size. I'm like, okay. Frankly, I'm actually getting tired hearing that, right? So,
and you've put on, dude, and that was the thing too, is like, I remember when you started leaning out for this show, these two shows in particular, I was like, I have never seen your chest this big. Your chest has always been defined, but you've always had a little bit, you've always had a big under, but you never had that top shelf, and like, or at least, you know, smaller top shelf. But dude, this last 2 runs that you did, that top shelf was popping.
Dude, it was.
So you have to be proud of the size that you have put on.
I did.
Because then you'll just go rock these, you know, local competitions all day, push these people around, you know. And it's like I was talking with somebody else at the gym the other day. It's like, it's better to be at the bottom of the next division than the top of the lower, which is why I think a lot of people get too afraid to compete at a higher level, like that risk that you're taking, because all they want to do is stay number one in the local scene. Yeah, they want to be at the top of the smaller group. I would rather be bottom bitch, but be considered top tier. I don't even care if I'm at the bottom. I'm being at the bottom of the next level is way more admirable than being at the top of like a lower level, for sure.
And that's why I want to chase the pro card. In fact, someone actually asked me, so do you want this pro card because you want to utilize it for your business?
Right.
Or is it something else? And honestly, it's personal for me.
A little bit of validation.
Yeah. It's personal for me because I already have the business. I already have the clients. I'm already making it as a coach. And I'm not saying I'm successful in any means.
Having a pro card's not going to like make you any more money or bring you any more clients.
No, to me it's personal. I think that's something that I'm shooting for my personal gain. It's something that I really want to accomplish, and I think that's a big step for my bodybuilding career. And is it going to help me bring more clients? Yeah, absolutely. I know it will. But it's not.
Maybe few.
Yeah,
but it's not groundbreaking.
It's not the point. Yeah. No. So people, because I have a lot of friends, the bodybuilders that they turn pro first, and then they use the pro card to promote themselves and then start coaching, which is awesome. And I think it's very validating for them, and I think it's awesome. You know, for me, I did everything kind of backwards, because now I already have the business. I already have everything else going on. This is personal for me. I just need to get it done.
I think too, if you were still working a regular job, chasing the pro card first, you wouldn't be in the situation that you're in to be as efficient as you are. The reason you are so efficient is because you don't have a 9-to-5, and you can place your focus elsewhere to be like the best athlete that you can be. And dude, props to those people out there that are doing it and
9-to-5,
having a 9-to-5 job, dude. You know, that works for them. Of course, like everyone's different. I just think for you in particular, and knowing you the way that I know you and stuff like that, that you couldn't do it any other way. You know, but that's actually something I wanted to kind of segue off of. So we're talking about what's happened now, what's happened recently, what's going to be happening, and you just kind of said, well, my biggest goal is my pro card. Let's rewind it way back. So when you said you were overweight, and really what kind of got to you was being in the car with your seatbelt on, and your stomach went over the seatbelt.
Yep.
In those days, was it just to lose weight, and now it's turned into the pro card? You see what I'm saying? Like, what has your journey been like from that moment, belly over the seatbelt, to now you're competing at a national level or going to be competing at a national level again, putting on more size, and like the pro card is the dream. Like, how did we get from Fat Yo to Fit Yo?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
I think a lot of that is because I've every goal I've set, I hit.
Right.
And so when you hit that goal, you want to create another goal.
To not lose momentum.
And because what happened, what sets the tone was my first show. And right after my first show, I decided.
How did you get to your first show? Can you talk about that? Like wanting to lose weight.
Oh yeah.
And then switching your mindset to competing.
Yeah. So
like where did that start?
I actually start. So the fat picture that you guys see on Fat Yo to Fit Your Transformation. So that picture was actually taken late 2016, going into 2017.
The one with the mirror picture.
Yeah. That one. And the reason why I took that picture was because Jess and I was getting married 2017. So I'm like, all right.
The next year.
Yep. I'm like, all right, we're going to start going to the gym. The funny part about that story was I never wanted to do a Vasa membership because I didn't think I was good enough. Yeah.
To go to Vasa?
Yeah. Not a lot of people know that about me. So I legit, for 3 months straight, I went to my apartment gym for 3 months straight. Yeah. And because I wanted to see if this is something that I want to do. So I did it for 3 months. I loved it. I enjoyed it. I've seen some changes. I've seen some signs, but I was eating like shit, right? So I'm like, all right. And so I got a Vasa membership. The first Vasa membership that I got was actually at the South Jordan Vasa when it was the Express, before they expanded. It was right before they expanded. I remember they had like the drapes and stuff. I came in and I'm like, what the hell is this? So they were in the middle of renovating the other side. Yeah, $10. Yeah. So I finally got it. And that was 2016 going into 2017. I'd been gymming for a whole year, a little over a year by myself, eating one burrito a day because I was thinking I was cutting. That was funny. One burrito a day. Like I eat, like I go to Chipotle straight up.
Dude,
listen, bro.
Had like rice in it.
Dude, shut up. I go to Chipotle.
Oh no.
And then I'll eat the first half of lunch.
Yeah. And then like eat the other half.
And
later.
then the other half, like, yeah, I'm gonna eat this for dinner. I'm cutting. I'm like, get the hell out of here. So that was.
I'm gonna cut this burrito right in half.
Yeah, exactly.
Right now.
And so, 3 months in my own apartment gym. And then finally I went to Vasa. And then I started going to Vasa in South Jordan. And then I ended up founding, I found a coach in 2018, February. So Jess and I actually signed up together. And when
you were looking for a coach, referred to somebody, went, met with them, signed up to be in the coaching program.
Actually, I wasn't looking for a coach. Jess was.
Oh, okay.
So she went into a consultation first without me. And then she brought me the second time.
Because maybe it was like a couples thing.
And then he gave us a really good deal of a couples rate. And we signed up. And then we signed up for 3 months. And then I decided to continue. And the coach at the time that I was with, and he was like, bro, you should do a show. And I'm looking at him. That is the dumbest thing you've ever said to me. What? Like, you want me to do a bodybuilding show?
How much weight have you lost by this point?
Yeah,
so thin, or?
Yeah. So I've lost. So I dropped some body fat. So I'm probably sitting between 14 to 16% body fat at this point. Yeah. I started at like 25 plus. Yeah. So in 3 months I dropped, and I was skinny though. Like I didn't have any
like muscle or size.
Yeah, or any sort of. I mean, some definition, but not crazy. And so when he asked me that, I'm like, that is the dumbest thing I've ever done. Like, mind you, I don't know anything about bodybuilding. I don't know what to do, where to go, who, where I go from there. Yeah. And so he brought me in, prepped me for my first show, and I did my first show in 2018. And back to my first podcast, Jess never wanted me to do a show. Right. And then
remind me, why was she against it?
She doesn't want me to be that guy, that bodybuilding guy. Is all about me, and
so she was just more worried if you would like become self-centered or something.
Self-centered and all that. I mean, like,
which is very valid. Like very valid to be afraid to lose your partner, like how they are or whatever. Like, what if they turn into a big jerk or something, or they don't want to be with me anymore?
There's like this huge stigma behind it, and so I had to prove her wrong. I'm like, look, I'm gonna be the same person I am the same person, in a lot of different ways. But so she didn't want me to do it, and we finally decided to do the show. She agreed to it. I did my first show in 2018, and then right after that, I loved it so much. It's not because I was shredded. I'm gonna get that straight. I don't care that I was shredded.
And I remember seeing you too. You were very, very like not a lot of size, but you were super, super, super lean.
I was
lean. You had a lot of definition, but not a whole lot of size or like the 3D-ness. I remember seeing you. You were very, very, very lean.
Mm-hmm. And then right after that, I decided to wanting to become a coach. Got my certifications, got all that stuff done, and fell in love with it. And then I started coaching close friends, right? Sebastian, people that I work with, just kind of on the side. I was just still doing 9 to 5. I was still working for PC Laptops at the time. So which
I remember. So I worked there too, and that's how we know each other. And I remember when you first started coaching. Those of you that sign up for his course now will keep this, to yourselves. But I remember he approached me and was like, I was like, hey, you do this and that, and I think I asked him for some pointers because I had been going to the gym and kind of kept like my size down. It was like active, but I wasn't really no definition or anything like that.
You were in Vegas at that point.
Yeah. And I remember asking you a couple of questions and you were like, well, dude, I'll coach you. And I was like, how much? And I remember you were like $100 a month. Yeah, and I was like, and me, I was like, oh man. Like, dude, we were both broke. Both of us were. You were like, I'll coach anyone for anything.
No,
You're like, dude, you buy me lunch and I'll coach you like $100. And I remember being so broke.
My first 10 to 15 clients, it was $50 a month or free. Or $100 a month. I think Nick was one of my first coach, one of my first client as well, and I think he paid me $150.
What a chump!
Oh, dude, it was great.
Paid the most.
Yeah,
and you were like, dude, I'm making Do you remember that? Do you remember that feeling? Like when you first made, dude, I just made $150.
Dude, I remember.
Do you remember that? Like when you first started coaching?
So I remember it by months. So I remember when I started coaching, it started online, and then I didn't really like it because people need that one-on-one connection. So, and then when I finally decided to
started
quit,
with online coaching, you said.
Yeah, just and then I did it for like 10, 15 clients. I did it for like, I don't know, 3-4 months or whatever. I don't know.
You were like, nah.
Yeah, it was not for me. And I decided to like pull the plugs, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. Pull the plugs on working for my job at the time. And decided to pursue coaching full time. And before we get to that point, Jess never wanted me to be a coach either. So there's another stigma behind that. And like I said in my
you're going to go home and be like, not only do I want to be a coach, I'm going to quit my job, and I don't have any income to replace.
I think I was making maybe $1,500 a month. That was pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, I had 10, 15 clients or something like that. I'm like, 1,500. I'm like, yeah,
a month's
bro.
Like $20,000 a year. Something like that.
Yeah. So what made me switch was this. We were launching at our old job. We were launching NetSuite. Remember? We were trying to launch that for like years.
It was supposed to be a new way to like order parts and things like that. And they were like, it's going to be amazing.
Whatever, bro. So
was this when you were going to go on vacation?
Yes.
Yeah. And he was like, don't you dare.
Yeah. So that was the thing. So we decided
to plan the vacation too, like way in advance.
Yeah. So this was late 2018. My family and I decided to go to Puerto Rico.
Yep.
And that was the week of Super Bowl of 2019, actually. And I remember I was leaving that day. I've gotten it approved. I planned it 6 months before. And so I remember I was at the airport. Okay. And I was at the airport, and my boss at the time messaged me. Yo, where you at?
And everything was falling apart at this point. Yeah.
Yeah. Where you at? And I'm like, I'm on vacation, bro. Like I'm going to Puerto Rico. And they're like, well, we're trying to launch this thing this week. Why are you leaving out of town? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, we've been trying to launch this for the last year.
Oh, longer than that.
And it kept moved. It just never happened. It never happens. I don't even know it really happened. It's 5 years now. And I was so stressed because he was texting me, and I landed in Puerto Rico. And then I remember I landed in Puerto Rico, and then we went to Isabela. So we landed in Old San Juan, which is beautiful, by the way. Highly recommend it if you guys have never been to Puerto Rico. It's freaking amazing. And then we rented a car. We went to Isabela, which is about 2-3 hours away from the main, city. And that was beautiful. Isabela was beautiful. So I remember sitting at the beach house. We were facing the beach. And I was so stressed. The first, 2-3 days the first 2 days of that vacation, I did not enjoy because I was stressed that he was texting me. He was, my old boss was, telling me why that I went on vacation when we're trying to launch this. So I was being harassed basically while on vacation at this point. Finally, we got over that conversation, and then I finally enjoy the vacation. Now, let me tell you something. On our way back, I remember landing at the airport. I just felt the amount, like 1,000 weight on my shoulders because of just stress. And I hated it. So we landed Saturday. Sunday happened to be Super Bowl. And so I had in-laws over and family over at our house, and I was not in it, bro. Like I was barbecuing, and I remember I was not in it. I did not want to be there. I was grumpy. I didn't want to host anything. So anyway, we got through that, and then Monday morning I woke up. I remember
to go back to work.
Yeah, to go back to work. Monday morning I woke up, and at this time I had 10, 15 clients, and I was making shit money, bro, at the time. And then I rolled over. I remember my alarm went off at 7. I rolled over on Monday. And I tapped Jess, and I tapped her on her shoulder. She was facing the other way. She turned around and she goes, "Babe, you okay?" And I'm like, I looked at her and I said, "Babe, this is it." She goes, "Uh-oh." I remember that. Yeah. She goes, "Uh-oh." She goes, "Are you serious?" I'm like, "I'm dead serious. I'm done.
I can't do this.
I can't do this anymore." And so, long story short, I walked right into the front door of the corporate office. I went right to HR. I sat in the HR's office. I told them, "Hey, I'm done. I'm putting my 2 weeks. But if you want me to stay the entire month, I can do that." So they decided to keep me the entire month for transition and all that fun stuff. And I told all the VPs, all the executives, what's going on. The last person that I told was the CEO of the company. This is the owner of the company. And I want to talk about that because this is really, really huge. This is what sets me to be in that next level. And so I was at the office. It was 7 p.m. I never stayed at the office until that long. And at 7 p.m. I remember calling him and I said, "Hey, can I talk to you?" And then and then it was a great conversation, and he ended up asking me, "Well, are you leaving because you're not happy, or are you leaving because you want to elevate?
A better opportunity or something?"
Yeah. And I said, honestly, it's a little bit of both. Like, I'm not going to bullshit you. Like, I'm not happy here. Like, but at the same time, I'm ready to evolve.
This does make me happy.
Right.
This other thing.
Yeah. I'm like, all right, cool. So we ended the conversation. He agreed to it. Okay, cool. And then the next day or two, I can't remember what it was, he asked me to go to his office. I'm like, that's weird. Okay, cool. And I remember we sat down in his office, and I was facing him. He was facing me. It was super quiet. And I remember, and he said, "Hey, so explain to me what you're doing, right?" So I'm like, "Oh, I wanted to be a nutritionist." Like, why are you quitting? Yeah, why are you quitting? Yeah. So I told him that I wanted to be a nutritionist. I wanted to be a personal trainer. I wanted to help change lives. But I think he was thinking that I was going to be working at like Vasa or like Lifetime.
Not like doing your own business.
Yeah. I don't think he understood that, right? Which is fine, whatever. And then he goes, "Well, the reason why I'm asking, yo, is because you can stay in about a year or two. You can make $100K or more." And I said, "That's nice, but that's not what I'm here for. Like, I don't really care about the money. This is not it for me. Right. I'm not looking to. You can even offer $1 million right now for me to stay. I wouldn't even take a penny."
Right. You're like,
that's how miserable I was. Yeah. And he said, "Well, if you don't stay, I do have to say this." And I'm like, "Okay." And he said, he proceeded to say, "Well, all the personal trainer I know, they're all broke," to my face. And I said, "Okay, well, I'm sorry you feel that way, but this is something that I want to pursue." And so that was the end of that conversation. So I took that negative energy. I didn't react to him. I didn't say anything to him. I was like, "Okay, well, that's how you feel. That sucks." But, sucks that the person that I looked up to for 3 years, that I was working there, that said that to me, knowing that I want to do this, as a career, and you tell me that all personal trainers are broke to my face. Okay. So I took the energy, left the company, and I remember, I always will remember that moment in his office. I remember the smell, the look of the office, what he was wearing. I remember
I've had moments like that too.
Like every single inch of the office I remember. And I use that energy and I turn it to a positive. A lot of people may react to it negatively. A lot of people may say something negative about that person. Again, like, I understand, like, he's not out to get me. Like, I understand, like, he's not trying to stomp on my career. I'm sure he means well. I get it. And
just looking out for you, man.
Whatever. So I took the negative energy and I applied it to my own business, and 2 years later after that, we created Unfinished Lifestyle.
Right.
2 years exactly after that, right after I created Unfinished Lifestyle, he has the audacity to text me.
Right. I remember this. I forgot.
And I'm going to talk about this. He texts me after he told me 2 years before that I was going to be broke.
You guys haven't spoken a word since then.
I haven't said anything to him. Right. And he texted me, "Hey man, you know, I don't know if you see my Instagram. You know, I'm having people that I've mentored or coached to be an entrepreneur, and wondering if you can make a 1 to 2 minute video about how I inspire you to be an entrepreneur."
I think you remember. I remember reading through the text, and it was a little bit more detailed than that, but it was something along the lines of, "Could you please make a video of you talking about how you're basically the only reason that you're successful as a coach is because of what I taught you," after 2 years before saying that you were going to be broke and that you weren't going to make shit. And now that he made something out of himself, he has the fucking audacity to contact you and try to take credit for that.
He did. And I just liked it. I just liked the and
thanks, homie.
Thanks, homie. I appreciate you thinking of
Here's my thumbs up.
But
my
I remember a screenshot of that message, and I sent it. Like, I don't know how many people that I sent it to, and dude, everybody's like, "Are you?" And the people that know what he said to me, right? And people are like, "Are you fucking kidding me? Are you kidding me?"
Balls on that guy. Yeah.
So that's a story that a lot of people don't know, and I'm gonna blast it on here because that's the truth. I'm not here to talk shit. I'm not here to be negative.
Those are facts. Like
those are facts. But really though, the only reason why I want to share that with you guys is because people, no matter what you do in life, people are always going to criticize you, no matter what you do, because people look at you and like, "Oh, I don't think you should do that. I don't know. It's a lot of money. Are you sure?" Blah, 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 blah. And until you do it yourself, and then people are going to say, "How did you do it?" I love y'all. But whoever does that and come back and say, "How did you do it?" and then you share on people before, fuck off, bro. Oh, yeah. Like, I'm not even trying to be civil right now. Like, that is because of that moment. I like to say to myself, okay, I will never be that person. I will never be that guy. And that's why I help so many people coaching, because I actually mentor a lot of people, a lot of coaches here in Utah, and to grow their coaching business. I'm like, dude, if I can do it, if I can teach you how to do it, do it. If you can do better, do it. Like, let me show you how to do it. Like, these are the stuff that I've done and didn't work, and these are the stuff that I've done and is working. I will never be that guy. And so I took that memories, and it's always in the back of my head till this day. And it's because it reminding me of, like, okay, whatever I do, I'm going to get criticized. Yeah. Whatever I post on social media.
That doesn't matter.
I'm going to get shit on.
Because you told me too, we were talking about that. You were posting positive stuff. Like, you were like, "I want to be really positive," and you started posting like an overwhelming amount of stuff that was really uplifting. Yeah. And you were like, "People are shitting on me and I'm being super nice."
Yeah. Like, I'm like, I don't get it.
Yeah. So then I remember you were like, "Dude, fuck it. I'm going to post whatever I want."
Dude.
And I was like, yeah. Cause you were like, "I want to make sure it's all positive and uplifting." And you were doing that and people were like,
still shitting on
it. So you were like, "You know what? I'm done."
And I learned from that. Cause I ended up calling my friend Brad Jensen. He owns Key Nutrition. His Instagram is The Sober Bodybuilder. You guys probably know him.
Is the Tina guy or what's?
Yeah.
Tina.
Is it Tina?
Is it Tina?
Shit. That real?
Teresa or whatever it is. I don't remember what it is.
That's gonna bug me.
Anyways.
But I called him one day and I was like, "Bro, do you?" And I screenshot, like, people were literally talking shit, and I actually had one. I've never had a racist comment before.
Yeah, dude. This is so funny.
He called me Pao Ping. He called me Pao Ping, bro. And I'm like, what? I was not upset at the racist comment. I was more upset that he was commenting on the client that I was trying to
It was like
coach.
An uplifting post.
Oh, dude, it was such a
racist to you.
And I'm like, what
dude,
the fuck? Yeah. It wasn't just one. He was commenting like 2-3 different videos of mine. I'm like, dude, what is wrong with this guy? And
I don't have the time, man.
I don't get it,
I get
man.
asked all the time, "Did you see this on social media?" And I'm like, "Bro, no."
So I ended up calling Brad. I'm like, "Bro, do you deal like?" Because I see his social media.
Yeah.
And he says some hard
real controversial stuff
dude,
too,
like some crazy stuff. And he said to me, I'm like, "Bro, I get shit on all day, every day.
Dude,
and I'm like,
probably get shit on way more than you too.
Dude, like, and because I see it, it's on his social media. Like I see it and I'm like, okay, it's not just me. Thank you for letting me know. And he goes, dude, keep doing what you're doing. You're doing great. I promise you. Like if you weren't doing great, number one,
nobody would care. Nobody would comment.
Nobody would comment. But at the same time, like you doing great, honestly. Like, yo, you're doing a really, really good job. So keep doing you. And from that moment forward, I had decided to say, okay, I'm just gonna keep posting what I'm posting. And I don't even look at the comment.
Or what
anymore.
you want with no agenda too. Yeah.
I don't look at the likes. I don't look at the comment. I just post and I'm already working on the next content. Mm-hmm. So for a lot of people that are watching this right now, if you're in the coaching business or if you want to do anything in social media aspects, don't post a content and consistently look at the comments and likes and waiting to. Crazy, it's going to drive you crazy. So don't do that. Post, work on the next content. Post, work on the next content. I don't even know how many likes, comment that I have on my last couple of videos. I don't care. The one that I post today, I haven't even looked at it. Because I don't care.
Oh, you tagged me. I don't
know. I'm like, I don't care.
I don't know.
I'm already Dude,
here. But it's just like the other thing too is like you don't have time to look at social media because as soon as you post and put your phone down, you're already working. You're on your laptop. You're talking to clients. You're training somebody. You're taking care of yourself, eating food. You got a wife and a baby. Like
I'm not gonna sit here and look at my comments.
Get out
of here,
dude. Yeah.
And that's something that I want to talk about because I had a lot of people ask, well, you could work with some marketing department that can, intensify your followers and do more this, more that, blah, blah, blah. And I said to him, look, thank you for reaching out. That's the number one. You have to understand that 99.9% of my clients that I have are all referral, first of all. I do not work with non-referrals, number one. Number two, I don't care about my followers. I don't care about my likes or comments. The only validation that I need is from one and one person only, and that is Jess. That's it. That's the only validation that I need.
And in fact, I remember you said to me the show that you took third. I remember you came off stage and you were you could tell that you were super pissed. Mm-hmm. And I'll never forget this. Like I'll always remember because I remember seeing you come off stage and I was like, you could tell with your energy. I was like, dude, you're fucking pissed. Dude. Yeah. And do you remember you turned and Jess and the baby were there. Yeah. And I remember you were like, I don't even care anymore.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even care.
That was it.
Like, that is lit. Like, I'm first place. Like, dude, I'm getting emotional thinking about it. There's not even my wife and kids, but you were just like that. Like, you were like, I'll never forget that. You were like, that's it. I don't even care anymore. Yeah. Like, and it's just so like amazing to me how like I've never really experienced that personally because I, never had a really long-term relationship, things like that. But dude, like that feeling is definitely something I hope to have one day where it's like you could be so mad, so defeated, so like whatever, and it's just like that's it. Like. I truly think that that's what gets people through tough times is relationships.
And it's hard for me not to be emotional about it, but I want to talk about one other aspect. So I lost that show, and then Brandon and I recalibrated the following week, and we decided to do another show 3 weeks after that in Vegas. Yep. Okay, so I want to talk about that. It was a last minute show. We didn't. It was our finance was tight at the time, so I couldn't bring the baby. Yeah. I couldn't bring Jess.
You were like, I want to do this, but man, like it's gonna cost me. Like,
so I couldn't bring Jess or the baby, so I just had to fly it myself. And Nick happened to come with me, which was awesome because I needed someone to be there to kind of help me and whatnot. So Nick ended up going, and mind you, at this point, I had never won first place, and I've done 6 or 7 at the time.
And it was second or third.
Yeah,
pretty consistently.
Yeah, so I've gotten second 4 times, right? Imagine
second place is the first loser.
Oh, dude, exactly. So we ended up going to Vegas, and the reason why I want to talk about this is because Jess has been through my entire prep since the beginning. She's seen me before my Fat Yo to Fat Yo to Fit Yo, right? To Coach Yo now. She's seen through everything from ups and downs. And we decided to do the show, and Nick came with me. It was just me and Nick, and it was actually at the exact same resort that I just did a week ago. Yep. Exact same spot, but it's just a different name.
Is it?
Yeah, it was a Steve Carr show. Okay, yeah, this last one was a muscle contest. It's called Patriots Challenge.
Yes.
That's what it was. And so we did the show, and I remember I went up on stage, and first of all, it was a big show. It was one of the last show in Vegas.
It was really
a big show. There was 12 of us. And I looked down, and I was the last person in line. And I looked down. I'm like, we're 5'6", and below, right?
Right.
So I look down. I'm like, man, there's a lot of Asians here. They look amazing, and we're all short. So I'm like, shit, this is a big show.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna do my best. And I remember I got on stage, and then I did my routine, and then they did a call out. So they did the first call out. So my number got called. And so what that means, if you made your first call out, you're guaranteed top 5.
Right.
Because there was 12 of us, so there's 2 call outs. So I made the first call out, and I remember standing in line, front pose, back pose, front pose, back pose, and they put me right in the middle. Mm-hmm. Front pose, back pose, front pose, back pose. And I ended up in the middle. That was the first time I've ever ended up in the middle, health centered, and left the stage.
Because you've maybe been placed in center, but then moved again?
Yeah, moved again. Yeah. So I'm like, holy shit, it's happening. And my heart was pumping at this point. I'm like, holy shit. So I remember I walked down the steps around the venue, and I remember seeing Nick, and he gave me a hug. And I remember seeing Brandon. I gave him a hug. And I was trying not to be emotional at this point because I was. And then all I remember was running to my backpack backstage. And at this point, Nick has been texting the group. So we know what's going on. They know what's going on. They know where I'm at. They know how I'm placed. So, and I FaceTime Jess. And I'm trying not to be emotional about this, but I FaceTime Jess. And when I FaceTime her, and she was already emotional at this point. I'm like, shit.
Because she'd been already kept like updated.
Yeah.
We all were. I was getting videos and stuff. Yeah, we all were.
And I remember, and I looked at her, and she looked at me, and she was already crying. And I'm like, fuck, okay. And all I said was, I was like, babe, we did it. Yeah. And
before you even knew.
Before I even knew. Yeah. Before the night show. And I said, babe, we did it. And her and I shared a beautiful emotional moment. We cried for like the first 2 minutes. We didn't even say a fucking word. And she was bawling, and I was bawling. Oh, look, there you go. Oh, shit. Okay. And she was bawling, and I was bawling. And I said, babe, I was like, we did it.
Yeah.
And she goes, yeah, I'm so proud of you. And then she said, I wish I was there. I'm like, fuck.
Yeah, and that's what like kills too, yeah.
Yeah, so, so when I won 4 weeks ago, it didn't feel as special because I've already won before. So that was huge for me, and that was huge for her. Mm-hmm. And she couldn't be there, bro. I'm like, fuck. That was tough. And then I remember, this is the funny part. I remember she picked me up from the airport, and then she looked at me. I will never miss any fucking show ever again.
So she told you?
Yeah. And so anytime I travel for my show, and she's always going to be there, and the little one's always going to be there. And so now I'm traveling. I always travel with the family. I never travel by myself anymore, especially when I'm doing a show. Hell no. Yeah, hell no. Can you imagine, like, if I would travel into this show 3 weeks from now and she wasn't there and I got my pro card? Dude, like, no. There's no way. Yeah, so she said I will never miss another show again. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, that was a very, very special moment for Jess and I, and she could be there.
Is that something like you feel really bad about? And it was just like finances at the time, mostly. Like it
just
didn't make sense financially.
Yeah, it didn't.
But I remember you saying I remember this too. You said that you were like, I'm gonna go compete in the show in Las Vegas. I feel like I don't even know how it's gonna go. Like you didn't even know if you were gonna place. So I think too, if you knew you were gonna place first, you might have like found the money somewhere somehow.
Yeah, I would have made it work.
But I remember it was very like I don't think this is gonna be anything. And then first place.
Yeah, that was crazy, bro. That was another beautiful moment too, and that even that when everything happened, all the emotional that comes with that, still this last show is the best show I've ever done. The family was there, right? I came in peeled. It's the best I've ever looked. Even though I took third, and it is the best show I've ever done. And Sandy and I had a really great conversation, and Brandon and I had a great conversation. So it was a beautiful moment this last weekend. That was awesome, and the fact that the baby's big enough now to understand, oh, Daddy's gonna go on stage,
win or compete, or
Daddy's
whatever,
getting a medal, and then he actually said, "Oh, medal, Daddy, medal," and then he just wants to just hold the medal.
Yeah,
and that was another beautiful moment.
Can we like segue into something like this? We wanted to talk about this as well. Can you relate how that makes? Because it's always a two-way street when it comes to fathers.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
How does that make you feel being a father, knowing that you're setting a good example for your son when there was no example set for you.
Yeah.
You talk about kind of like, because it starts here and then there's you. And then this is like that energy gets transferred, you know, and like the biggest thing that I've been told lately, like I go to counseling and stuff, is like breaking the cycle. Like you could be just like this. And how could you not? That's all that you know.
That's all I know.
So how does this trickle down, you know?
So I'm gonna start off by talking about my family dynamic, right? So my family, my stepdad is very educated, my mom's very educated, you know, and came from an Asian family. It's always been, hey, this is what you should do. You got to go to college. Oh, by the way,
classic stuff like doctor or something.
Yep, you gotta, you gotta make a lot of money. But at the same time, they would tell me, money is the root of all evil.
So they want you to make a lot of money, but they
want
careful.
But they want me to finish college and work for a big company and make a lot of money. It didn't really make any sense. And so on my side of the family, none of my families are owning their own business. So no entrepreneurs in my family. I'm the first one. So I had to break that cycle. And I didn't know that I was breaking that cycle at the time when I was doing it until later on after I created Unfinished Lifestyle. I'm like, holy shit, like I did this. And I'm the first one. And by the way, my parents, you know, I love my stepdad. I love my mom. I think I grew up in a very awesome home. They provided me with a lot of education and toys that I need, soccer, all the fees I paid for. I mean, and I grew up in a very, very disciplined household, right? And
you grew up with the essentials.
Yeah.
Nothing out of the essentials, nothing really profound, nothing to really like set you up to go anything above and beyond living.
No,
not too good, but not too bad.
Yeah, my parents were strict. You know, like I remember I had to come up with some money to buy my first car, and they matched the money. I think if I remember, they matched it. So I bought my first car was like 1998 Grand Am Pontiac. Yep. Yeah, it was the white one. It was a piece of shit. Holy cow, dude!
I know exactly.
Dude, the radiator was the radiator right now. Everybody talking about the radiator. I'm like, it's real. That shit. Oh my god, it's real. It was horrible, and so, So they provided me and I was very disciplined. You know, I had chores, you know, and curfews and all that stuff. So, but they're you know, as much as I love my parents, even my real dad back home, and he lives in Malaysia, they're not.
You have a stepdad, yeah.
Stepdad.
And you talk to him a little bit more.
I mean, now, yeah. I mean, my stepdad and I right now. My stepdad and I have a really, really good. Really good relationship.
Good terms.
Oh yeah, great terms now. Which I'm going to talk about that in a second. And so growing up, I never, you know, as much as I love my parents, but they were not my role model, right? So they were I've never had a role model until I met Nick's dad, and he was my very first soccer coach. And I was 14, 15 years old. Dragisha.
Yeah, Dragisha,
Dragisha.
Fucking unreal.
Dragisha is what his real name, but I call him Dragisha because it sounds cool. And so he was my very first mentor. I remember that. He taught me a lot about soccer.
You've been homies with Nick since school?
Since middle school.
Middle school.
Yeah. And then I got a job at Ashley Furniture when I was 18 years old. And my mentor now became my sales manager at the time. His name was Riley Lowry. Really awesome dude. And my good buddy of mine, John Salandra, and I'm still friends with John. He's the one that lives in Vegas. And I remember the store manager at the time, the regional manager at the time. I remember my boss, my general office manager for the Utah market, and she was my mentor as well. So I never really had a mentor until I was 18 years old, and that was the people that I work with. So I looked up to them, and then I quit that job, and that's when the PC laptop came in the picture, and all that stuff comes later. And so I grew up from that, and because I'm the first entrepreneur, and at the time my parents I don't think they understand how much money I was actually making. I don't think they understand that it's an actual business that I've created. Now that I have 2-3 businesses now, right? I don't think they fully understand what I do, and it's not their fault to not know that, because I think I shy away from that conversation.
It's like, how can they understand? Like they've never done it.
They've never done it, and I don't really have the capacity to have a conversation with them, because everything I do in terms of finances, I remember when I bought my first Mustang, the convertible, the white convertible. I remember when I bought it, I was so proud of myself, bro. Like I was so proud of myself.
Funny? First time I had a 1998 Honda Civic, and it blew up on the freeway, like literally exploded, fire shooting out of the hood.
Yeah.
First car I bought after that, because I was killing it, dude. I was like, well, this is like 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Like I was killing it in sales, and I was making $12.50 an hour. But back then, $12.50 an hour.
That's a lot of money, bro.
An apartment, car insurance, loan, food, gas. $12.50 an hour.
Yeah.
My little brother makes $25 an hour. Can't pay for anything.
Yeah, dude. Right now, it's hard.
But same thing, dude. I bought a Ford Mustang. 2012, gray manual stick shift.
Oh, that was
black
from
racing
Jake.
stripes.
From Jake, isn't it? Yeah, is that right?
No,
it's
I bought it from a dealership.
Oh, that's a different one. Okay,
but bro, I remember being like, "This is it." Like I made it.
Yeah,
dude. I bought my own new car.
Yeah,
dude. I was like, "This is it."
So from the Mustang.
Yeah.
So I bought it, and at the time, I graduated from just an office guy at Ashley Furniture, and then I ended up going from assistant manager, office manager, and then I became the GOM for the Utah market. I was a general office manager, and I was the youngest one they've ever had. I was only 22 at the time. And I was making $35K a year.
Dude, you were wearing
salary.
suits.
I was wearing suits, and I had my first laptop.
Yeah,
like my
that
first
was yours, company laptop.
Yeah. So like me walking through the terminal, I'm wearing, walking with my little suitcase, just a
like
laptop.
flying places,
dude, like whatever, I'm like, this is it.
Yeah.
And so I bought the Mustang, and I remember I came home, and I told my mom, I bought a new car, like yo, and she said to me, and she goes, "That is the dumbest thing you've ever done, yo." And I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, I'm so proud of myself.
I'm like, what? She goes, "You could have saved the money, bought a house." And she was right. I could have.
Yeah.
I should have. But I didn't. And I made that decision. And I'm like, there's a story behind that.
That's so funny because it's so similar, too. I was signing papers for the Mustang, and I didn't tell my mom that I was doing that. And my dad told her. And my mom called me while I was signing papers, and she goes, "Don't you dare come home with that Mustang." Guess what I did? Came home with the Mustang.
Exactly. We did it. And I remember my mom was like, "This," and my mom was like, "Dumb, that was a dumb decision, yo." And I'm like, "What?" You could have just saved the money and bought a house. I'm like, "Yeah, I could have, but I didn't." And there's a story behind that. So this is where it all kind of shifted for me.
Right.
I was working at Ashley Furniture, and my phone was blowing up, and I'm like, "What is going on?" And it was about my uncle, right? And I was working at the time, and that was before I became a GM, I think. That was right before. And I remember reading through Facebook, and the plane was missing. My uncle's name was everywhere. My aunt, my grandma, and they had a picture of my grandma was at the airport, because everybody came to the airport because they're like, I don't know what to do. The plane went missing, which I'm going to talk about that in a second. And so I've seen all these pictures, and I'm getting tagged from left and right, and I'm like, what is going on? So I remember I finished work, I drove home, and I was on my phone driving. Kids don't do that. And I was on my phone driving, and I pulled up in my garage, and I was living with my parents at the time because I had just split up with my ex at the time, and I was living in the basement. And I remember pulling up to the house, and I walked in the garage, and the CNN was on.
Right.
And I remember my stepdad, his name is Larry, and my mom walked down the stairs and said, "Hey, yo, we need to tell you something." And I said, "I already know." They were shocked. I'm like, "What do you mean? How do you know?" "Well, social media."
Everybody's been texting me, yeah.
I'm like, "Oh my God," like I see it everywhere. And so I went downstairs to my room, and I just went to bed. I didn't know how to react. I don't know what to do. I didn't know what to say. Like, I think I was in shock. I think maybe I was in shock. I was in shock. And so the story behind that, guys, is that there's a Netflix special, actually. So if you haven't watched it, go watch it. It's called MH370. Because that's the number of the plane. That's what the plane was called, MH370. I remember that's embedded in my head. And there was, I think, 235 passengers, I think, if I remember correctly. They were flying from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, which is the capital of Malaysia, to Beijing, China. And backstory, my uncle and my Aunt Melanie, my uncle's name is Andrew, and my aunt name is Melanie. And the backstory behind that was, since I was a kid, they've been in flight attendants. My aunt flies locally, I think, but my uncle flies internationally. Yeah. So he would fly to LA all the time, other countries, Hong Kong, Australia, whatever. So he flies all around the world. And since I've known them, and I have cousins, I have two cousins from them, Myra and Malcolm, awesome cousins. And where was I going with this? Oh, so Melanie is my mom's oldest sister.
Yeah.
So Andrew is my uncle. So anyway, so the plane went missing. And
I remember hearing about this on the news too.
Yeah.
And it was just like, literally, it was just that. It was like, the plane was supposed to land. It's not here. Can't get a hold of them. They searched for it. They couldn't find a crash site.
Yeah.
Like, nothing.
At the time, I did some digging. It was over the Indian Sea or Vietnam Sea or something like that. It was connecting to Vietnam. And then it went missing. And then it rerouted. They said it was rerouted down to like India that way, which is kind of weird. I don't know why. But anyway, I don't know. We still to this day we don't know what happened. So yeah, there's a Netflix special called MH370. I have not watched it, and I think it's because I lived it in real life and I know the details of what's going on because I lived through it and I've seen it and I felt the emotion from my family. I don't know if eventually I watched the actual special. Maybe there's something new that I didn't know about, but till this day, it's never found. So, because of that incident, I remember waking up the next day, and I was going to work, and I was getting ready, and on my way to work, I called my boss. Her name was Paulina at the time. Yep. I'm like, "Hey, Paulina."
Next day.
Yeah, the very next day. So I was like, "Hey, Paulina, I got to tell you something." She goes, "Hey, what's up?" So, do you know that missing plane that was all over the news? She goes, "Yeah, I saw that." I said, "Yeah, my uncle's in there. My uncle was one of the flight attendant that was in the missing plane." And she just gasped. Like, she didn't say a word. And I'm like, and I started bawling, dude. Like, and then the waterworks come. Yeah. And I was driving at the time.
I've had that happen. Like, it hits you randomly.
It just hits you. And then I was driving at the time. And I lived in Riverton. So Draper's not that far. So it was like a 5-10 minute drive from my house. And I had to pull over because I couldn't see the road. Because
you were crying.
Yeah, I was just bawling. And it finally hit me. And so here I am showing up to work. My mom went to work the next day. My stepdad went to work. Everybody just kind of go about their day, right? And
what else do you do?
I don't know. So I went to work, and the entire day, people were talking about this missing plane because they know I'm from Malaysia. So they were like, "Hey, bro, like, do you see this? You see that?" I'm like, "Yeah." So I didn't tell anybody. So I just kind of brushed it off.
They're just trying to like ask.
Yeah. So I just kind of brushed it off, and then later that night, John Salandra is one of the sales guys there. And I finally told him, like, "Hey, look, bro, like, I know everybody's talking about it, but I'm getting sick of it. And if you please just let everybody know, just stop talking about it because my uncle was in that flight."
Yeah.
And then he just looked at me. I remember he just looked at me. His face just turns white. And he goes, "Yo, are you serious?" I'm like, I can't make this up.
Right, yeah.
And so and then everybody else knew, and everybody kind of gave me a hug and gave me, condolences, and everybody was trying to talk about it, later on. But that was the most craziest part of my life, remembering that moment. And it's not even like I haven't seen him for maybe a year or two before that, because Andrew, Melanie, and my cousins used to visit us like probably once a year for Christmas, because I think I might have seen him 2-3 Christmases ago before that. And this everything happened in 2014, if I remember correctly. I think it was 2014. And so from that moment, I realized, and this is where the Mustang came in, right? That moment I realized, wow, anything could happen in any given time. I could hit by a bus.
Oh, yeah.
I could be disappeared the next day. If 235 people went missing just like that with the technologies that we have,
it could say like I can't go missing or something.
It could happen to me. So from that moment forward, I decided to not live the way my parents want me to live. I don't care about what people think of me, what I want to spend. I don't want to save money. I just want to make money and spend money because I could die tomorrow. what's good if I have $1 million in a bank and I'm going to die tomorrow? What am I going to do? Like, I have no experience. I didn't go anywhere. I just saved. Right. Again, I love my parents to death. I love my parents to death as well, but we never really, we kind of vacation, kind of not. And I didn't know it. I didn't know this until later on. Like, my stepdad had a really, really genuine conversation about how they were struggling while I was in high school. I had no idea. You know what I mean? I had no idea. I was being a little shit too. Like, if I would have known that they were struggling with finances, I would have been, if they would have shared that with me. And again, he said,
but then when you're older too, even when you're younger, you don't comprehend. Like, it's like, we don't have any money. You're like, well, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Like,
so I understand why they kept it from us kids and me and my little brother, because they don't want it, because it's not our responsibility, right? Which I understand, but I wish they would have sat us down and kind of tell me about what's going on. I would have been like,
you're trying to explain it a little better.
Yeah, because then I would have been a totally different kid, and I was a shit show, bro. Like, it's summertime come around, bro. Like, I'm breaking rules. I'm not.
That was me.
Yeah, and I was being, and the only reason why I do good in school at the time was because of soccer. Yeah, because I had to get 3.0 or above to play, right? So which I did. So from that moving forward, I decided to live the life I wanted to live, buy whatever I want, live in a luxury apartment, and I moved in with a roommate at the time. His name was Max, and we live an extravagant life. Which is funny because that's when Jess came in the picture. Yeah. 2015. That's when she came in the picture, and I was like, I was single, I was mingling, dude. I was going on dates. I had a bachelor pad. I had the Mustang, so it was like, I was wearing suits. Like, oh yeah, dude, I was balling. Bro.
I remember doing that too.
I was balling. Yeah,
I worked at a clothing store when I had the Mustang, and I was the assistant store manager. Very similar to you. I thought I was big dog. My favorite thing in the world was I was the youngest store manager they had ever had, the most successful. Like, turn around the store. The store wasn't doing very good at all, at all. And I remember when I started working there, dude, I was slinging product like crazy. We were competing with stores in California, New York, Hawaii, like heavy hitter stores. We did so well that the vice president of the company came out to meet me so that we could write a sales training manual together.
That's amazing.
Right? And then I started working at PC Laptops. And you know what the owner said to me? I don't think any of that's true because you're no good. He tried to tell me that because no customers would walk through the door and I didn't have any customers to sell, that was my fault, and that I was no good of a salesman, and I must have lied about my sales history. And I was like, the vice president of this company flew out to meet me personally to help write a new training manual at 20 years old. And then the owner of that other company that we worked for had the audacity to be like, I think you lied about it. And I was like, whoa.
Well, how do you sell when there's no traffic?
Yeah, I was like, dude, what? What is happening?
Why do you sell something, bro?
No, dude, he told me, dude, I'm not kidding. I can't make this up. I cannot make this up. If there's anyone like this in your life that sounds like this, get him out. There was one time, I'm not even kidding. We opened the doors to the store, and we were in Las Vegas. We unlocked the door. He's like, oh, dude, nobody came in. And like 5 people came in. Not a soul, dude. Not a cockroach. Dude.
Mosquito.
Dude, no, nothing. No one
came in. Not even sunlight.
No one came in. And I remember he called and chewed me out that I didn't sell anything that day. And I said, no one came through the store. And he goes, well, you sound like you're in a bad mood. I said, I'm in a terrible mood. And he goes, that's why no one came in. Your customers can feel your bad vibes and they don't want to come in to buy from you. And I remember I literally said, fuck you. And I hung up the phone.
That's horse shit, bro.
Dude, yeah,
that's crazy.
The craziest thing. But it's so funny to me how similar our stories are, even down to the Mustang, down to the parents, down to you're talking about the plane thing. I had something similar. There's a TV show on, I think it's on Amazon or HBO, something like that. But it's called Under the Banner of Heaven, and it's about a couple, some murders that went down here. And the guy that's in the show, he's not in it a lot, but the guy that's in the show, that it's about his family, his wife and daughter were murdered. His second wife, their kids, we were best friends growing up. So I remember hearing about, because what happened was, my friend, his dad had a first wife and a daughter, and his 2 brothers were out of their minds, religion, crazy stuff, and they murdered them. And I remember he told me about it, and I was like, what? And then a year or 2 ago, the TV show came out, and I was like, huh, that's really familiar. And they used their real names. That's their real name. Wow. They didn't cover it up or anything. And I was like, I can know those people. So
yeah, it's crazy.
Not the same, not a family member or anything, but growing up with something similar. I'm honestly blown away by this conversation, how similar. things have been for us.
So yeah, that solidified it for me, and so I started to live the life that I want to live.
Yeah.
And because of that,
because
of the amount of time that I spent on myself, the money, and being single, doing all that stuff, and so then you met
Jess.
I met Jess at the time. And so she's seen me at my highest and she's seen me at my lowest. So this is where the low comes in. And then all the mistakes just happens that year. Started July 4th on my mom's birthday. Dude, from that on to December of that year, I was belligerent drunk every week. That's how I gained the weight, by the way. I was belligerent drunk every week. I was eating garbage. I was not happy with my life. My roommate opted out on me, and I had to find a loan to pay off my apartment.
The remaining apartment.
And I asked my parents to give me money, and they said no. You know what they said? They said, you put yourself there, you dig yourself out, which was amazing. And I love that they did that. I hated it at the time.
Yeah.
But I love that they did that because they're right. Like, I did this. I needed to clean my shit up. So I ended up taking $3,800 or $5,000 from a bank just to pay off the rest of the apartment. And then I ended up moving into Jess's older sister, KL's basement, because she was married at the time.
Yeah.
And then
how long have you and Jess been dating though?
Not even maybe 6 months, maybe.
And for her to like, dude, that's the other thing too. You can almost say like literally since day one, you were having a problem, and without hesitation, she was like, I have a place for you to live.
Yeah. And here's even crazier. So now, and then I was transitioning to a new job.
Yeah.
I left Ashley Furniture, and then that's when I kind of transitioned between PC laptops. I didn't have any money. I couldn't pay gas. I couldn't put gas in my car. So Jess had to like drive me to work. Dude, that was the most excruciating probably 6 months of my life at the time. And then I realized that every time I drink, I was an angry drunk, and I couldn't figure out why I was angry at the time. At the time I was oblivious. So anytime I get alcohol, I was angry. And Jess had to say, hey, I don't know if I can be with you if you're this angry all the time when I'm drunk. And I'm like, I'm never an angry person. Like, it's not me. Why am I like that? And now I realize why people are angry when they're drunk. It's not because of the alcohol. It's because their life is like not
suppressed emotions.
Yeah.
Like they behave themselves when they're sober. When you're drunk, it's like it can't be contained.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when alcohol hits me every single time, I just get angry. So I had to backtrack and apologize to all the people that I did wrong or said something wrong. Now, I wasn't a bad person, but I was just angry, and people see that. I had to apologize to all the people that I did for that 6 months of my life. And then I ended up meeting Max, my roommate at the time, later that year, around Christmas time. So we met up at Buffalo Wild Wings at the district, and we chatted over a beer. And I had to tell him everything. I had to tell him that I sold his mattress. I sold anything that I have in his room. To get the money. I sold everything just to get the money to pay off everything. And he apologized, and I said, look, I forgive you. And I said this to him. I remember. I said, I forgive you. It's not because you deserve my forgiveness. It's because I deserve peace.
Yeah. Like, I don't want to be hung up on
from this. That on, my life was, I was good. I was not an angry drunk anymore. Mm-hmm. And then me and Jess started to live our life together. We moved into an apartment, and we got married, 2 years after that, or whatever year after that. And so that's how my life kind of became solidified. But yeah, so back to the whole Andrew thing. Right. Because of him, I started to change my life. And then I asked myself 2 questions. What am I going to do today to make myself remarkable? So I want to be remarkable every day. So whatever I do, whatever I go, I want people to be like, wow, that Johan dude is like whatever. Right. And the second question was, what is my purpose in life? And I didn't answer that until 3, 4, 5 years after. And
that's hard. That's a hard question to answer. I don't care what anyone says. Yeah. If you don't have the answer, there's nothing wrong with it.
There's nothing wrong with it.
That is a hard question to answer.
And I couldn't answer it for the first 4 or 5 years until I found coaching. Mm-hmm. And then the answer to that question was very simple. And I said, what is my purpose in life? And then I woke up one morning, I'm like, oh my God. And what it is serving others. My purpose in life is to serve others. That's literally it. I could be car salesman, I could be a therapist, I could be whatever. Like, I just serve. And that was a huge moment for me. And I'm like, okay. And that's why coaching for me, it comes easy because all I do is serve people, and I love it. Yeah. And not a lot of people can have that.
It's funny too, is I remember when you first started coaching, you'd been coaching on your own with Unfinished Lifestyle for like maybe 6 months, 7 months, something like that. And I was one of your first clients under UFL. Well, kind of. I think you had coached me with the other place for a few months, and then we switched into. But I remember you came and you were like, dude, can I like share a win with you? I want to share it with somebody. And I was like, yeah, man, like what's up? And you were like, I made $3,500 last month. And I remember you were like, I am killing it. You were stoked.
I was stoked.
Oh, yeah. Stoked. So I think a lot of people get discouraged when they're like, I only made $3,500 last month. I really want to make, $10,000 or whatever. And they don't appreciate it. Mm-hmm. Dude, I remember, I think it might have even been like $4,000. You were like, dude, it was my biggest month ever. I made $4,000. And I remember you were like stoked. And you were like, if I can just make $4,000 every month, like if I can just do that. And then I remember talking to you and you're like, dude, if I could just make $8,000 every month, if I could just make, and anytime I talk to you, yeah, dude,
it gets, because I hit the goal.
Yeah.
I hit the goal every time, and I'm like, all right, let's increase it. Yeah. So, because of Andrew, we decided to name our little boy Ozil Andrew, and that was a good conversation as well. So I had to call my aunt. I FaceTime my aunt. It was on WhatsApp. And Jess was pregnant at the time.
She's back in Malaysia still.
Yeah, she's in Malaysia. And she was huge at this point. She was like 8 months, 9 months. I mean, she was, she was ready. And so I FaceTime her. I'm like, hey, Aunt Melanie, do you have some time to FaceTime? She goes, yeah, what's up? So I FaceTime her. It was morning at the time. And I think it was dark our time, because they're 12 hours ahead, I think, or 10 hours or something. Yeah. And that was another emotional conversation too. And I'm trying not to be emotional about it. And I remember FaceTime and I'm like, hey, I said, so just so you know, like, we want to ask you something, and this is very, very important. She goes, yeah, what's up? And I said, well, we were thinking about naming our kid Ozil Andrew, but before we decided to do that, we want to ask for your permission,
like her blessing,
and your blessing, and I don't want to take it away from Myra and Malcolm if they want to have a kid and they want to name their child Andrew. And she got emotional, and of course I got emotional with Jess, and Jess got emotional, and she was pregnant at the time, and that was a very, very beautiful moment. And my aunt said, you have my blessing. I think it's beautiful to name him Ozil Andrew, and I have it on my
that's what that is. I've never looked.
Yeah, so I have it on my necklace. It says Ozil Andrew. Obviously, it's my son's name, but I always have it in my heart at the same time, for both of them, and obviously Jess is on the other side too. So, and that's why we name him Ozil Andrew. That was a beautiful moment. And she was crying, I was crying, and Jess was crying, and it was a beautiful moment. And then we ended up naming him Ozil Andrew. And so I don't think he knows how much his name means to him yet, right? So back to your original question in terms of mentorship and being a leader to my son. I know that was a long time ago.
Well,
yeah.
This is where it starts. It's like, this is where it starts. Yep. This is where you are, and you can only take what you have. And how did you, it's like, how do you, your dad took it here, and how do you take it from here to here? Like, how do you?
So, like I said, Larry is great. And I think he gave me and my little brother and my mom, stepdad, the life that we deserve. I mean, he did way more than my real dad did, And my real dad, he's lovely as well, but he has 4 kids that he needs to worry about back home now. But he was there for me when I was a kid. He was there at every sporting event for me. But he's never taken us vacation. He's never done, any of that. And like I said, I mean, it's no fault through his own, because he was young at the time. Yeah. Like, my mom had me when she was 18, bro. I think my dad was 16, like, I think my dad was like 21, 22 at the time. So they were fucking young. Like I get it, but when Larry came into the picture, he brought us to the U.S. My mom and my stepdad got married there.
What age? You were like 14 or 10?
Yeah, I think my parents were divorced when I was like 10, I think. Nice. 10 to 12. And then my mom got remarried. I think I was like 12 to 13. And so they asked me if I want to move to the U.S. And I said no at first. I said, hell no. And I said to him, to my mom and I said, why would I want to move somewhere that I've never been? I don't have any friends or family. Like, that's the dumbest thing. So I declined their offer.
You're really against it.
I did not want to do it. And the hardest part about that was whatever decision that I made, my little brother goes with. So if I stay, he stays with. If I go, my little brother goes with.
There's a lot of weight, too.
So it was a lot of weight. So for a 13-year-old, like, are you kidding me? Like, that was...
Yeah, you're not only changing your life, but someone else's, too.
Till this day, it's the biggest and probably the best decision I've ever made in my life. And it's not that I miss my family back home and my lifestyle back home? Absolutely, I do. But I have more opportunity here than I do back home. So he brought us to Austin, Texas for like 6 months, and we ended up moving to Utah. And I've been in Utah for 18 years now. And I loved and I haven't left since. And I went back 2017 when me and Jess got married, and that was huge. It was like wedding and family reunion all in the same time. It was crazy. It was such a fun time. But anyway, so yeah, it from what my stepdad has given me and what my dad has taught me, even though they're not entrepreneurs, they don't have the same mindset. And because of the people that I was with, the experience that I've had growing up, the mentorship that I had growing up, brought me to this next level. And so what I'm doing with my little one is totally different. Like, we live a healthy lifestyle. We travel as a family. I will never travel without my family, unless it's like a quick trip if I have like a client doing a show somewhere, which is probably going to happen this year, because I can't fly them. I mean, it's $3,000 every time to do it for the whole family. And so leading with example, I think it's the best thing to do with my little one. I'm going to teach him that it's okay if you don't want to go to college. It's okay if you want to work for yourself when you're 16, or you want to work at Taco Time when you're 16, because that's what I did. I work at Taco Time, but I never had that option. I never had my parents. Fences. Yeah, I never had my parents, hey, you can create your own business, right? Because guess what? They're not an entrepreneur. They don't know how to do that, right? So I'm not saying they don't know how. Maybe they do. They just don't. So because of what I do today, and Ozil sees that I'm competing, that I'm a coach, we own businesses, we have real estate, right? And I want him to understand that he can build and do whatever he wants to do. And I'm always going to say, I'm proud of you. And that's the one thing that I never usually get from my parents. And I love my parents to death. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Oh, yeah. I love them to death. But up until last year, they stayed with me for 3 months. They went to my seminars. My mom went to one of my group training sessions. I think you were there for that. Mm-hmm. And she sees what I do and how much money I was making. So I started sharing the wins. my wins with my parents, and they were gasped. They didn't know how much money I was making.
Because they didn't comprehend.
They didn't know, and now they know. So I told them everything. So every wins that I have, I share it with my stepdad now. Every wins that I have, I share it with my mom now. So they know what's going on in my life. And until last year, I remember I dropped them off at the airport. And this has happened multiple times occasionally while I was here too. Right. So it's not just that one time. But that's the one time that I really remember. I dropped them off at the airport because they were leaving to Europe. Mm. And I gave my stepdad a hug and I gave my mom a hug, and they both said, yo, I'm really proud of you. You've built such an amazing family and businesses, and I'm really proud of you. Bro, that broke me. That's all I needed from them. That's all I needed from them, because they were so hard on me growing up. And to the point where I did not share any finances with my parents at all, and vice versa, because I know they're going to say something smart. They're going to say something that's going to piss me off, that I'm not going to talk to them for 3-4 months. And that happened because it happened before. And so I just stopped sharing my wins. I just stopped sharing everything. So when they stayed at my house, when they came back to Utah after living in Europe for like 6 months or whatever, we were moving to this new home from my townhome. And I didn't want to tell them that I'm renting the townhome, because they're gonna ask questions like, well, how do you afford this? Blah, 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 blah. I'm like, this is why I don't share. So finally, my stepdad and I had a bonding moment over whiskey, because I'm a whiskey guy. So he had a whiskey and I had a whiskey. I think he drank scotch.
Me too. Jamie straight. Mm-hmm. Well, when I did drink.
Yeah. So we had a really bonding moment over a fire, and I told him straight up, and I said, and here's another part too. And I said, Larry, and I said, the reason why I don't share this with you, because I didn't think you guys are always hard on me. Like you guys are not proud of me. You guys don't know what I do. You guys are not. I feel like I need approval that I've never gotten from you, from either of my parents. And so I remember he stood up, dropped his drink, and this is going to break me for a second. Dropped his drink, and he got up, and he gave me a long hug. For the first time ever, I hear him say, "I'm really proud of you." And that was like the first week or two when they came into here, that before we moved into this new house. I was like, holy shit, this is really happening. And I needed that moment. And that's the validation that I needed from that. And then from that, it just kind of grew. And we moved in. He went to my seminar. My mom joined in. And so they believed in what I do. And they were proud of me the entire time. And again, and back to the airport thing, I dropped them off and they said, I'm proud of you, yo. And I remember the first thing, I got back in the car. I called Jess and I broke down in the car. And I said, babe, like, my parents are proud of me. And she was like, I love that for you. That's all I needed. That's all I needed.
Dude,
that's all I needed from my parents.
I think a lot of people, not like to be on the Debbie Downer train or anything, and this is pretty a generalized statement, but I don't think that people realize, maybe some women, that men don't get hardly any validation, if any at all, ever. Yeah. Ever. And it means the most from the people that you want it from the most, which is your parents, wife and kids. Yep. And I haven't gotten it yet, but I've never been in a situation like that before, so it's kind of like the time will come, I'm sure. But I already know from experience with other things, like sometimes, dude, a few words are years of healing. Yep. Like you feel like there's this part of you and it's like a huge weight, and it's just somebody, like, approval. Dude, as a man, I don't know if you, that's what we're talking about, like, you can relate, like, in other men out there, dude, approval is massive. Like, especially for your own parents, man. You know, if you guys are listening right now and you inspire about this podcast, first of all, thank you for listening in, and thank you for listening to my story. Now you really know who I really am, because I don't really share a lot of my personal stuff. But this is hasn't been killing it since he came out the womb. This is new.
This is new. But thank you guys for listening. We're gonna wrap this up here in a second, but for those of you listening out there and you don't have that approval or you don't have that connection with your parents, and I'm going to tell you this right now, if you have your parents that are alive, whatever negative, whatever's going on in your life, or has gone on, or has been going on with your life, like, I understand if they are a really, really bad person, then
you be the judge of this.
You be the judge of that. Maybe you don't want to reconnect, but I'm telling you this right now: if you can reconnect or connect with your parents that are alive right now, please do it. Please connect. Please have that one-on-one conversation. Please tell them exactly how you feel, because that's exactly what I did, and I got that validation, and I got that love from my parents now, and I'm 30. I'll be 31 this year, right? So if you have time, if you can do that, if you're listening to this right now, if you have that issue with your parents or seek that validation, have that one-on-one conversation. And if they don't agree with it, if they still are the same, if they don't like it or whatever, if you don't have the approval that you still need after you have talked to them, at least you said your piece. You can forgive them. It's not because they deserve your forgiveness.
It's because you
deserve peace.
For sure.
So thank you guys for listening. Got to wrap it up.
This is such a good conversation.
Dude, it's crazy, man.
I know we could go on and on and on, but it's interesting, I think, how similar we are and how similar our conversation is, which makes me think that hopefully a lot of other people are similar out there and they can relate as well. I think it's a great story. And for me to, like, witness it all firsthand too, I think that's why, like, even, like, I got emotional. It's like, it's not even my wife or kids, but dude, like, I was there, like, witnessing, like, I've witnessed this whole thing.
You were there, like, since day one when we launched.
Pretty much, dude, pretty much.
And even before that.
Yeah, and like, I can't, take any of the credit because you're the one that put in the work. But I remember talking to you and being like, dude, we could make this thing, like, big. And you were like, I've been thinking about doing that, but, like, kind of don't know how. And our collaboration with each other is what I think really, like, elevated it. And you've even texted me a couple of times, like, and been like, I'm so grateful for you. I know that, like, if we didn't have our friendship and this, like, there's no way my business would be this big. Yeah.
And now we're here.
And not just me exclusively, but, like, I know, like, you feel that way about, like, Nick. He's been there. Like,
Peyton.
Yeah, dude.
And Britt at the time. And now we have Coach Desi and we have Coach Marjorie. Yep. I mean, our team is growing. Yeah. Team really is growing. So I appreciate you guys for listening. Thank you for watching.
We're out.
We're going to wrap it up.